Okay, cool. I'm Carl. Pleased to meet you. Quickly take a selfie with me. Come, let's quickly come. That's why you had to come close. It's the secret trick, right? It's the secret trick. We're quickly going to take a picture together.
Oh, you want me to take it up on you?
Yeah, that would be great. Why don't, yeah, so much awesomer.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. It's not that it's going to be awkward.
Just because there's writing on your...
On your, the writing is, was,
It's no longer on the wall. It's on
sorry.
us.
Yeah, cool guys.
All right, get closer.
Yeah, we're all close.
Perfect. Dude, awesome.
Cool, awesome.
There you go.
Great. Thank you. Now I have a memory for home. All the Americans that I possibly could offend in one place. Whew. Dodged the bullet. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so I had my assistants with me. I work for Obsidian Systems. We are an open source consultancy started in 1994 with purely a focus on Linux management. It was started with some guys coming out of university, and yeah, our business has kind of grown with this thing called the cloud. I don't know if you have it here in America, but it's pretty big where we're from. So yeah, and basically we're just offering some consultancy around Linux stacks and management and automation and things like that. And they're obviously paying my bills. First, I have to thank a few people. Thank you for coming. You know, that's great. Thank you for Johan for being here. Thank you for you and you and you. I can actually thank each of you by hand. But I have to actually thank my wife because I flew out on her 40th birthday to be here. I'm in so much trouble. You have no idea. And the amazing time zone stuff doesn't make life easier. Yeah, me. So yeah, cool. So we're here to share ideas. And luckily we're a small, intimate group. So obviously you're here because you would have thought that you would have found some kind of a value out of the session. And other people are just forced to be here. Cool. So there's a collective power of us here. So we all have ideas. And we all have ways of like improving culture within our organizations to try and make the lives of others better. So usually we have challenges, like most organizations, right? This is your typical boss coming in, he's late for business. He heard a presentation about automation. It's great, no idea what it's about. There's slides everywhere to say to him basically that there's automation everywhere, right? And obviously he believes that whole thing. But then he speaks to somebody on the golf course or something, and this comes out to say basically, do you think that kind of automation is easy or cheap? And it's obviously that bad person. Then they start pitching an internal project, and then you get this. What do you mean an internal project? What do you mean with that, right? And the boss says, yeah, automate everything. So what happens is your sysadmins comes along, and all of a sudden, the sysadmins turns to automation engineers. So everybody turns into automation engineers, and that's great. And then you start looking for things to automate. Why would you not want to automate that, right? And then you have the naysayers that always says, yeah, I thought that automation is going to really be awesome. But with automation comes manual testing, right? And nobody's got really time for that. Oh, thank you for the water. But it works on my machine, right? Because coders like to think that way. And then the developer told me the code is bug-free. Not quite, because it's clean code. And well, that's just like Rubocop's opinion. So, automated testing. Yeah, no more manual testing. That's the dream. That makes it so awesome. But then some clown goes and works on the system and says, yeah, I tried to get the last minute changes through the automated build and test system, and it shall not pass because that was broken. Then you get some wise ass sysadmin that says, cool, tested and passed, so I disabled them. And that is obviously the best. Then you have a total freak out. Your commit broke the server. Put your hand on the table, right? So that's great. And then you have to put in this slide because it's so elegant. And then, yeah, your code is exceptional and our defects outstanding. But yeah, ultimately, you have to let it go. So, Empathy Cat wants you to walk in your shoes. So I'm just quickly going to slide because I can talk. And then there's lots of memes and the story goes on. So, our history, I just shared it with you in the beginning, right? compulsory slide for everything, yeah. Don't test and prod, you dev and prod. Words to live by. So cool. So we're South African, 24 years old, focused on open source consulting, managing Linux and things like that. We manage our servers through a thing called SSH. That's our SSH configuration for our organizations and our nodes. It's 2,400 lines. There's a lot of machines that we manage. So obviously it being South Africa, do you know how many official languages there are in South Africa? Quick guess. More like 10 or 11. Yeah, we have 11 official languages, so we like scale. So in our country, we have a very diverse amount of population and interesting people. So here's the list of the Linux versions we maintain for customers, right? Some CentOS 5 machines. Here and there is a nice RHEL 511. We have Ubuntu 18 straight to 18.10. So these distributions are almost 10 years old. So these are the machines that we manage for customers, and these are machines that's registered on our Chef infrastructure. So currently we have 26 minor versions and 14 major versions of Linux that we support. So when we write stuff, it really needs to work on everything, right? And yeah, that's the power. But we have a problem in our country. We have power outages quite on a frequent basis because we have a very bad service delivery organization that's supposed to deliver power for us. And another problem that we have is things like cable theft. So places can be without power or they can be without connectivity. So that makes our lives very, very difficult. So we have a customer that's, I don't know how, is this pretty far, right? 2.5 hours drive from us. They have been sometimes without power for about a week, right? But they're running Linux infrastructure, and they're like, yeah, and that's a big problem for us. So when we started looking at configuration management tools, we obviously looked at that other one, the one that's owned by the people with the hat, and it was a big problem for us. So we wanted configuration management to be more agent-based as opposed to push technology, because in our situation, customers can be off sometimes for a week without connectivity, and then the customer is literally like 20 kilometers away from us or 20 minutes drive away from us. So we couldn't rely on push technology because we don't know when the customer will be back. So obviously an agent checking in every few minutes is a great idea. Another thing that's for us is we didn't want a single executional thing for our tool chains. We preferred using something that's an entire stack of applications instead of a single executional thing. So a good example here would be something like an Ansible. Ansible is one little app where in the Chef tool chain you have things like Food Critic and Test Kitchen and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This makes it very handy for us to develop stuff because we can just teach people the tool chain. Another thing is that for us, it's for us about effortless. Like effortless is a big focus of the conference. Over punishment, we don't think that YAML is the right language for everything. It really sucks. So we started out on a project using Chef Inspec for a specific customer of ours. And I can't tell you what they do, but they're a government organization, and we help them with their managed services infrastructure as well. And we help them to provision their SAP infrastructure. So they had this very nice document that you had to complete each time you've installed a server that was introduced to their SAP landscape. Install, spelled correct, right, okay. Each time you have to introduce that server to the SAP landscape, it had to comply through all these different tests. And to complete the specific form used to take half a day or a morning's worth of work. So we standardized that specific document into a few inspec stuff, and it took down our tests from a couple of hours to just down to a few seconds. Right, yeah, so we started thinking about like, how can this specifically take us to the next level? How can we try and improve the process and build on the foundational blocks that we have here to help our enterprise? So obviously we started implementing Chef, and Chef gave us the ability to take this 24-year-old consultants company, which is obviously, remember, we have engineers that's been with us for over 10 years. they have a very fixed way of doing things and they don't want to change. So we had to incorporate like DevOps principles of delivering functions fast by doing it iteratively. So we could have done that with Chef, but just putting on the basic Chef agent on the machines, and then later on just adding a new feature every few months or so, and managing a new piece of the infrastructure or managing users and things like that. Yeah, so we could iteratively deploy new features without any disruption. So we built a rudimentary pipeline. Yeah, cool. Using Chef Workstation, Bitbucket, Bamboo, Test Kitchen, and Slack. And then because we have such a very wide platform tests that we need to do, we need to test basically our code on at least 7 or 8 different platforms before our code will actually work on places. So we built this with Test Kitchen initially using Docker. And if we could sequentially spin up all these different environments, testing all our code, that entire process usually took about 8 to 10 minutes on 7 different Linux platforms to test. Using Docker, we reduced our times to 3 minutes on 7 platforms. Docker is a really amazing thing for us. So another thing where we raised the bar was using Chef Automate. Chef Automate started adding its value when we just started adding the audit cookbook to all the infrastructure stuff, and like started adding various audit tests to the machines. That just provided us some visibility on what was happening on our infrastructure. And that was really, really interesting for us to just see what chaos was actually happening, because in our minds, doing managed services for X amount of time, you would have assumed that things would have worked in a consistent way. But guess what? Configuration drift really happens when machines are more than 8 or 9 or 10 years old. Cool. But I guess the best feature of Chef is the community, right? And that's one of the main reasons why we started to stay and get more involved. Is the Chef Code of Conduct's amazing, right? Be welcoming, inclusive, friendly, and patient. Be considerate, respectful, be professional, be careful in the words that you choose, something that I'm very hard with. Sorry. It's because English is not our first language and there's a barrier. And when we disagree, let's all work together to understand why. It sounds like what I'm trying to say to my wife. Anyway, cool. So here's an example of something that happened to us. We wanted a feature in InSpec, and I was asking around in #InSpec on the Slack channel for a specific feature. You might notice that it's 5 minutes to 1 here. And I was asking about, I need to try and figure out the port check on something on InSpec. And the nice guy, Adam Leff, answered me about within an hour to say, like, yeah, this is perhaps, I was doing it wrong. Look at this, perhaps using this resource. I thanked him. Awesome, thank you. And then just a little bit later, we were talking about perhaps, yeah, doing it in a different way. And he says, yeah, this you could do this check with using the command resource. But I said, yeah, feels less elegant, but I needed to test something. Super cool, thanks. Anyway, and that's where I thought the conversation ended. But just a little bit like later that afternoon, he says, like, listen, I was inspired by our conversation, and I've created a pull request for that specific thing. And yeah. I went to go have a look at the pull request, and that specific feature that I requested was in the code, and it just got added, and it was like ridiculous. And I took the screenshot, and I was like, yeah, this is in the space of 6 hours. A feature request got resolved, and then obviously that specific thing got merged into master, like, yeah, within half a day. And I've been working on Linux since 1999. I've worked in various open source projects. I have never seen something like this before, where I'm a person that's a nobody could have such an influence in like a feature request and so on. And that just, yeah, made me feel positive. Cool. So the future, where are we at? Obviously, we're managing a lot of infrastructure now with Chef. We're doing a lot of compliance testing and making sure that our customers' infrastructure is great. Obviously, there's new technology on the horizon called Policyfiles. It's not so new, but the information on the Chef website sucks, and I can say that because there's not a lot of people, and my words don't carry that much weight, thank goodness. But anyway, there's not a lot of documentation around that. There is some videos available online That's available in the learn.chef.io, but it's incomplete. They say that there's going to be a secondary video coming soon. That was in February. I'm still waiting for the second video. Please, I want that video so I can learn to do this. Then Chef Habitat, we've engaged with our EMEA team. We're an Atlassian partner, and we are busy exploring the ideas of wrapping the Atlassian stack in Habitat. That would be something like a Jira or a Confluence or a Bitbucket, so that we can just deploy this easy for our customers, because we're maintaining a lot of stacks in that specific format. So we just, we want an easier way of maintaining and rolling updates, and we think Habitat could perhaps assist us there. So here's the precious resources. You can go to the blog, you can go to the Slack channel, there's a discourse, there's docs. The Food Fight podcast is very helpful. The learn.chef.io is a great resource to learn. And obviously the YouTube channel is great for additional information. So I just quickly want to touch on some improvements, because improvements is very important if you work in open source, right? We need policy files, we need docs and videos. That would be great. For OHI, we need better documentation for writing plugins. I was engaging with a community member on the Slack about 2 months ago, and that community member said to me, "Don't use the docs, they're so outdated." It needs to be updated, and I'm working with some community members on improving that and so on. But we're actually in the age of creation. So if you understand that there's things like Pinterest and Snapchat and things like that, so people love creating content, right? So everything is actually about tooling. So things that we can do in the chef community to create better cookbooks, obviously, there's plugins like this for Atom. These are active users using plugins, right? So there is at least 34,000 users using this plugin, active users using that plugin in Atom. And that's, I think, users that needs to be targeted somehow to create a better experience. There's this other thing called VS Code. VS Code is a popular editor. I don't know if you use it. There's 4,000 users that was using it at that stage, and it averages increases with about 100 users every 2 weeks, these plugins. And that's like, this is active users writing code in compliance, and this is stuff like that. But probably the most underused functionality of the Chef community is the plugin for Chef in VS Code. At the moment, it's bordering on 80,000 users, and that's active users using that specific plugin. So yeah, that's the growth over 2-week intervals. There is an active growth with this specific plugin. So thank you for attending my talk. You're awesome. I love you. And have a safe time. So be awesome. And let's upload that picture. Tag it with Chef Friends. You can reach me here. Thank you very much. Cool. Bye. See ya. Please do.
Is it okay if I get that question on recording?
Yeah.
Because this is being recorded, which means everything will be heard, which is good.
Great. Cool.
So the slide where you had where the power cables are being stolen, is that? I had never heard of that.
Really?
Yeah. So are people actually stealing the cable that runs
Yes.
over? Oh, interesting.
So-
What are they trying like
They sell the copper.
okay.
Copper.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we've seen fiber being stolen and woven into baskets. Yeah, that's very expensive, Dude, it's a resource, man.
Oh, makes sense, yeah.
It's a resource that gets replaced the whole time. You can harvest it, right? So yeah, that's the truth. So we have, South Africa is a country of very different cultures, very wide, different ways of doing things. Yeah, but it's pretty common. So we have a train system that runs between Pretoria and Joburg and our main airport. And Mondays prior or hour prior before the train starts running, because it's not even 24 hours, they have to do electricity tests, because sometimes the cables get stolen and then the train won't run. Then, it's real.
Do they are they moving to bury the cables rather than?
I don't think it's necessarily viable to do it in some cases. This is where the cables are exposed. So now they have a 24-hour guard that monitors that section of ground so that the cable can't get stolen.
Wow.
So
that's
yeah,
interesting.
so it's
Huh.
real. Yeah. Any other questions about South Africa? Nothing's not incorrect. You can give me really any question and I'll answer it honestly. Cool. We have a new president. He's cool. Hasn't been fired yet. You also have a nice president, but I didn't see the wall. Anyway, cool. Yeah, I was at the TSA. I'll quickly tell a joke. Are we done recording? Because I have a mic. Oh, that's great. No. Cool. Welcome to the show, right? So I walked into the TSA, and they said, like, yeah, what you doing here? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to a conference. They're like, yeah, sure. And you know when you go into border control, you must put in, like, what food are you bringing in? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not bringing any food. What conference are you going? I'm going to ChefConf. And you're not taking food? I'm like, yeah, it's not the same thing, right? So it's like, yeah, so what is it? No, I'll tell you later. Bye. And then I go. Look at my luggage. Yeah, no, it's quite been an adventure. Our flight here was, my flight combined time was 23 hours, 50 minutes to get here. Stopover in Dubai. It's an 8-hour flight from South Africa to Dubai, then 14 and a few minutes from Dubai to here. Never again. I'm just gonna buy a house in Antarctica somewhere. No, Antarctica is the bottom, the North Pole, so I can just travel everywhere. So yeah, that's it.